Detective Sergeant Nick Bailey was not poisoned by nerve gas on the scene of the attempted murder of Mr. Skripal and his daughter in Salisbury last weekend. Actually, Detective Sergeant Bailey has been poisoned in the house of the British spy Colonel Skripal, and a doctor who treated the Russian pair on the scene has not been affected in the slightest, leading ineluctably to the conclusion that there was no drive-by, walk-by spraying of nerve agents in the faces of two people sitting on a park bench, but in fact, such poison as they imbibed was imbibed inside their own home. Now that's rather more sensational news than we've just heard, that graves of people who died some years ago from Colonel Skripal's family are being exhumed. Good luck on that. What is much more significant is that only someone with access to Colonel Skripal's home could have poisoned the people in the house. And that means that Zizi's Italian restaurant in Salisbury is in the clear. So is the pub in which both of them repaired after their lunch. So is the park. So is the park bench. There was no crime in the open air in broad daylight. That's pretty sensational news. It's leading the Daily Telegraph, not a revolutionary Bolshevik organ, but doesn't seem to have made it, clearly at least, onto the major networks. I wonder why. Well, one reason is it's another wheel off the bandwagon that President Putin, 10 days before his presidential election and exactly 100 days before Russia hosts the World Cup, actually carried out the hit. I just remind you en passant, though I make no direct inference, that Porton Down, the epicenter of Britain's chemical weapons, yes, we have them, dear listener, chemical weapons factory, is 7 miles away from the scene of the crime. There's nobody knows yet what the poison was, and it wasn't VX, and it wasn't sarin, and it wasn't sprayed in the faces of the hapless two Russians on a park bench. It was somebody who had access to their house, who put poison somewhere that they imbibed. But how did Detective Sergeant Bailey imbibe it? Presumably, having seen the crime on the park bench of two people utterly incapacitated, he didn't go into Skripal's house and help himself to some Scotch broth. He didn't go in and help himself to some uneaten sandwiches in the house. So how did our gallant police officer manage to get poisoned with the same stuff that poisoned the Russians? I have never believed for 1 second, and I have good reason for that initial conclusion, that Russia, the state of Russia, President Putin, or the latter-day KGB carried out this crime. Why would they? Why should they? Who benefits? Cui bono from this crime? Did Russia benefit from the attempted murder of a guy who was so unimportant that his treachery earned him only 13 years of a sentence in a Russian penitentiary, and then a pardon, and then a prisoner swap? Did Russia benefit? Did Putin benefit? Clearly, obviously not. No, I'm not saying that the Russian intelligence agencies are not capable of heinous wet jobs, crimes of murder. They're just as capable as any other intelligence agencies, even our own. Perhaps especially our own, if you know anything about British history. Patrice Lumumba, anyone? Now, I'm not saying the Russians couldn't do it. I'm not saying they're morally above doing it. I'm saying that whatever else President Putin is, he's manifestly not an idiot. So if not the Russians, then who? Who benefited? Cui bono? It's always the question you ask in a crime, you know, if they're properly doing their job. Well, anybody who wants to cause trouble for Russia, anybody who wants to widen the already Grand Canyon of hostility between Britain and Russia, anybody who wishes Putin ill, anybody who was ready to go into Colonel Skripal's house with poison. There are many other strange aspects to this case. This man was such a traitor to Russia that it turns out he has regularly been visiting the Russian embassy in London. He's such a traitor that his daughter is able freely to travel between Moscow and London, as she does every other month. This man is such a traitor that he's never done or said a single thing against Russia, so far as we know, in all the 10 years or nearly 10 years that he has been living here. If Putin wanted to kill him, he could have killed him during the time he had him in a Siberian penitentiary. If the Russians wanted to kill him, they could have put a bullet through his heart in his home if they had access to it. Rather less of a fuss and no danger of a British police sergeant being affected when he went to investigate the crime. Doesn't add up, ladies and gentlemen, comrades and friends. And we'll be talking to Alexander Nekrasov, a former Kremlin and Russian government advisor, on this subject very shortly indeed. In the second hour, I'll be talking to Henry Bolton, who I hear you say, Henry Bolton is one of most of UKIP who've been the leader of the party over just the last couple of years, defenestrated by the texts of his young girlfriend, which evinced racist hatred and, yes, poison against people of colour in general and the future wife of Prince Harry in particular. You remember the brouhaha, or perhaps you've forgotten it. Perhaps it's best forgotten, except the bold Henry, a gallant officer in his day, has decided to form his own new political party, having been thrown out of the window from a tall building by his erstwhile UKIP comrades. We'll be talking to him about that. And we'll also be talking to Dr. Chris Ogden, senior lecturer at the School of International Relations at the venerable St. Andrews University, on the meeting of the two haircuts. Now let me say this as candidly as I'm able. Kim Jong-un has played a blinder. He may be a young un, but he's no fool. He may look stupid with that haircut, but he's no fool. He has brought the Americans to the negotiating table with the oldest trick in the book. Show that you're capable of mass killing and mayhem, but you're prepared to give it all up in exchange for one thing only: an end to the threat to the existence of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, North Korea. That's all he wants, that the Americans will guarantee the security of the state that he leads, and that the sanctions built on top of the issue of Korea's pursuit and now attainment of nuclear weapons should be dropped. That sounds like a bargain to me. And to the credit of haircut number 2, Donald Trump has accepted the invitation by Kim Jong-un for a face-to-face meeting between the leader of North Korea and the President of the United States of America. Now that is diplomatically, politically, and in public relations terms easily the meeting of the century. No American leader, since the American leaders tried and nearly succeeded in annihilating all of North Korea in the Korean War in the 1950s, just before I was born, they only managed to annihilate 25% of all the people of Korea, that's all. But they tried to turn North Korea into a smoking, mouldering ruin. And no American president has ever countenanced a meeting such as Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un are about to have. Now, I've been talking about this subject since this crisis began. And if I had told you back then that it would come to an end not in a nuclear mushroom cloud, but in a burger, a cheeseburger, and a Diet Coke being shared between these two leaders as a deal is struck, you would have thought me absolutely insane. But that, dear listeners, is what is going to happen. It's a vindication, is it not, of Winston Churchill's great saw that war is not to be preferred over Joe. You can call me on 0344 499 1000. That's 0344 499 1000. You call us, we'll call you back and put you on the radio to the world. You can also text me for 25 pence plus normal sending charges. Begin your text with the word talk and then your message, and the number is 87222. You can also email me via the website at talkradio.co.uk, but best and fastest of all is to tweet me at Talk Radio, at George Galloway. This is the mother of all talk shows.